Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. Here we have Dr. Jeff Wade with his book, Tales from the ER and Other Places, or Always Eat the Lamb Brains. If you can go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself and your book.
Okay. Well, hi, I'm Jeff Wade. I'm a ER doctor for the last 25 or so years, and been in the ER that time. I'm also currently now mostly at a cancer hospital, and traveled all over the world in the interim. Ran a few medical missions, so different places in the world, and picked up a lot of stories from the whole time. And I like stories, and these are stories from my life. All of them have, but usually at least a little bit of some kind of medical connection, and the patients and people I've met in there.
It's such an interesting book about your life and the stories that you came across. What would you say inspired you to begin the journey of writing this book?
Well, one of the first stories in the book, and the first medical mission trip I went on was to Cambodia. And just one day I was thinking about it, and I ended up writing the whole thing down. And the more I kept thinking about it, I would think of different patients and experiences that meant something to me in my life and thought would be worth sharing. And before I knew it, the whole thing was done.
And with every journey, there's always difficulties. What would you say is the difficulty that you faced while in the process of writing and publishing this book?
The writing came naturally once I actually got the stories down and figured out which ones I wanted to write. And I had most of them half written in my head once I came up with the title and the story for each of the ones that's in there. That part wasn't hard. The publishing part is always hard. Unless you're a big name, you're going to have a really hard time getting into the publishing, getting in exposure and everything else that you get.
What would you say is a message or sort of a lesson that you wish your readers or future readers would take from the book?
There's a lot of them. One of the lessons is the subtitle, and it refers to a time I was in Morocco and refers to my entire travel philosophy. Always eat the lamb brains. We were in a restaurant in Morocco, and they always bring out what some people call the salad course, but very little of it's what we would consider salad. It's maybe 10 or more little teeny dishes, each one with some little nice thing in it. And they brought out one that looked like two little rolled up balls of spaghetti. And I thought, two little rolled up balls of spaghetti. That sounds real Moroccan. But I took the fork and I tried to cut, and it wasn't spaghetti. It was lamb brain. But lamb brain is amazingly good. And buttery, nice, sweet, tender. Incredible experience, and it took me by complete surprise. And if I wasn't open-minded enough to go to a real Moroccan restaurant in Morocco and end up in McDonald's or any of those horrible places we have overseas, I never would have had the experience.
That's great. For the people interested in reading your book and purchasing it, where can they find it? Do you have a website or any bookstore that you would like to mention?
The easiest, of course, is Amazon. Just look under the title, and I'm sure you'll be putting that in the video, and you're there. And it's also on Amazon UK for anyone in the UK who wants to buy it.
Perfect. Is there any other message or information that you would like to tell your readers or your future readers?
Well, two interesting things, at least I find them interesting in the book. One thing is I like to consider myself the punk rock Oliver Sacks. And of course, Oliver Sacks, respected older, died within the last few years, physician who wrote stories about his life with patients, his interactions, and some deeper messages that came from it. And my stories are vaguely similar, but I'm from a much different generation, and the punk rock thing comes into it as well. Many of the songs have, as an epigram, a brief quote before they start. Punk rock song, because in many of the stories and in my life, punk rock has been a real thing. It's not the only thing in my life, and I listen probably more to anything else now, classical and jazz, but I was into the community, and there's a lot of depth and meaning in more punk rock songs than you actually would anticipate. I actually was able to track down one of my punk rock heroes, Jello Biafra from the band Dead Kennedys, because I used a couple of his songs either for my own updated version of one of his songs about a certain Orange Führer, who is not Horse, by the way, or wanted to be Führer, that is, of ours. And then, of course, for the Holiday in Cambodia story, I quoted his song, which really does get into a lot of the horrible things that happened in Cambodia, and point out how Americans who thought they were so cool back then because they could listen to a few NWA songs and realize how suffering really is, don't know anything. And you really need to get to different parts of the world, or at least watch the news, etc., to realize that our way of living is not the way everyone lives.
That's great.
The punk rock song. And actually, when he read it, he willingly and joyfully gave me permission to use his songs, and gave me a review that he loved it and wanted to see the book.
That's great. Wow, that's really cool. So thank you so much for telling us a little bit about your book. You guys heard it here. You can get it on Amazon, which is the easiest place to get it. Does it also come in ebook form?
There is available in the ebook version.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for telling us a little bit about your book, to get people intrigued into reading it. It's always great hearing the perspective of the author, because we tend to read books, but we don't really know what was, happening while in the process that the author was writing the book. So it's really great to hear, information straight from the author.
Great.